Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video. The early game is upon us again, and Tarkov is flooded with rats fighting for whatever scraps we can get our hands on, out to get ahead and fund the next raids. In this video, I want to take a look at some of the most useful barter trades available to players in the early game, mostly from levels 1 to 10, but there's also a few at the level 2 traders that have become really important thanks to some of the new mechanics. With the recent flea market changes, using the traders effectively has become more important than ever, and it definitely helps to take advantage of some of their barter trades in the early game, which give value to otherwise useless items. I'll be splitting this up into a few categories, starting with medical supplies, then going into weapons, armor, and gear, and then into a few useful trades for quality of life items. So with that intro out of the way, let's start this off by taking a look at some medical supplies you can snipe from the traders for some very common barter loot. First up, we have the SALEWA First Aid Kit, which is not only a very good healing item, but also one of the most sought after quest items in the very early stages of the game. Every player needs 5 of these to hand into therapists, so it's a dual purpose item that you need to know how to acquire quickly. Luckily, there's 2 easy ways to get these without having to find them. First, you can craft them at the med station level 1, but more importantly for this video, you can trade 1 can of paid to therapist for a SALEWA as well. Paid is a common drop that can be found in duffel bags, hidden stashes, and on shelves and random tables all over the place. It's not something most players look out for, but as a trade for a powerful medkit at level 1, it's a useful item to pick up if you have space. Next up, we have another medkit trade from Therapist level 1. 2 rolls of duct tape for 1 car medkit. Again, this is just another way for players to access a medkit that can heal bleeding before they've unlocked it through Therapist's initial quests. The car medkit is not as good as the SALEWA, but duct tape is a very common drop, and in the early game, anything is better than an AI2 and bandages because they're not cost or space effective. You can unlock a purchasable car medkit fairly early, but it's good to know about this barter trade so you can take advantage of it for some basically free meds in exchange for duct tape.
Just very, very close.
Next up, we have one of the few ways to get your hands on a CMS kit in the early game so you can fix blacked limbs that might otherwise cripple your entire raid. For this one, you'll need to unlock Jaeger level 1, which can now be done at level 5 at the earliest if you complete the gunsmith quest very quickly. This is kind of tricky, but if you get lucky on finding the parts needed for gunsmith 1, you can do Jaeger's unlock quest quite early. However you do it, once you get Jaeger level 1, you can start trading him 3 pairs of nippers for 1 CMS kit. Nippers are a very common item to find on utility shelves and in toolboxes, so it's quite easy to get the items needed to trade for this one. Even after level 10, this is still a great trade in my opinion, since it gives you a fairly easy way to get an important medical item without paying 30,000 rubles or more. Next up, let's take a look at some weapons you can get for some fairly easy barter trades at the level 1 traders, starting with the ADAR available from Skier level 1 in exchange for 1 rechargeable battery. The ADAR is a great early game weapon, especially considering you can buy 30 round mags and decent M855 ammo from Peacekeeper level 1. You can also now get the MK12 low profile gas block at level 1 Peacekeeper, so you can easily put a simple red dot sight onto this rifle and improve your accuracy pretty substantially. Rechargeable batteries are a fairly common drop in filing cabinets, duffel bags, dead scavs, and anywhere you can find electronics loot like tech stores and interchange. Just keep in mind, you'll need 3 of these found in raid for a quest later on, so try and use non-found in raid batteries for this trade if possible. Another good trade at Skier level 1 is the VEPR 136, basically a semi-auto AKM, which trades for 2 horse statues. Again, the VEPR is a great early game weapon and it fires one of the best rounds low level players have access to, 7.62 by 39 PS ammo. This stuff is basically the best ammo you have against armor at low levels, so it's quite useful. Horse statues are a very common drop in duffel bags, dead scavs, in hidden stashes, and in all kinds of places that have barter loot spawns like filing cabinets. You shouldn't have trouble finding 2 of them for this trade, and in the early game, this is one of the few ways you can get 30 round mags for the 7.62 AKs without unlocking Peacekeeper level 2. This next trade is from Proper Level 1, giving you a full auto AKM in exchange for 3 cans of TUSHONKA beef stew. The AKM is very similar to the VEPR, but since it can fire in full auto, it's quite a bit better in close range fights compared to a semi-auto VEPR. This trade can be a bit more tricky than some of the others, since you might need to actually eat that TUSHONKA to restore energy, or hoard it to complete therapist quest that requires it. However, it's such a common drop in the Goshan store on Interchange, plus on SCAVs and anywhere else you can find food, that you should have no trouble getting some extra beef stew to swap for an AKM. Like with the VEPR trade, this also gets you a 30 round mag for the 7.62 AKs, which can be useful when the traders only sell 10 rounders. The next trade is at Peacekeeper Level 1, and it's been a highly recommended weapon trade for as long as I can remember. You just need 8 brown-handled knives, and you can exchange them for an MP5 at Peacekeeper. SMGs are quite effective in the early game before anyone has face shields or high-level armor, because their high fire rate means a fast time to kill. With the 9mm ammo buff in this patch, face shields and basic armor are much easier to punch through with accurate fire, making SMGs more useful than they were before. You can very easily find the knives for this trade on basically any scav in the game that you can loot, since most of them carry a brown-handled knife. You can very easily farm these knives as a scav as well, since you probably spawned with one, and then you just need to go around killing the friendly AI scavs and picking up their knives. When you make the trade, just load up on PST GZH ammo from Mechanic and you'll be spraying down other players in no time. For the last weapon trade I want to cover, I'm actually heading up to Peacekeeper Level 2, which you can unlock at level 10 if you get your money spent requirement taken care of. The one trade that I find really useful for the early game here is the MPX for 7 dog tags, which only have to be level 8 or higher. These dog tags are practically worthless anyways, and this trade is a great way to make use of dog tags you collect from hatchlings and other low-level players. The MPX is a slight upgrade from the MP5 with a higher fire rate and a lot more customization options. You can add a sight, a foregrip, and laser to it by default, and the recoil is very controllable for full auto sprays. Personally, this is one of my favorite early game weapons for Interchange, since it works well at close range fights, and it's accurate enough to use at medium range if you know what you're doing. If you like the MP5, I highly recommend trying this trade out as well. It drops enemies even faster thanks to a higher fire rate, and you can attach foregrips, sights, and lasers you find in the raid to modify it on the go. Next up, I'll be going over some trades for armor and gear like backpacks or tac rigs that you can use in the early game to outfit yourself for good raids, instead of being stuck with whatever Ragman sells. First up, I want to go over 2 different ways you can easily get MBSS backpacks from level 1, which are going to be the best bag you can easily access until level 15, unless you loot them from other players or scavs. The first trade is at Peacekeeper level 1 and only requires 1 hard drive in exchange for an MBSS backpack. These hard drives are incredibly easy to find, stuck in pretty much every computer, most duffel bags, and in almost every tech loot spawn in the game. You can easily fill up entire backpacks with these in one raid, and then trade them for enough backpacks to fund an entire day's worth of raids. I try and bring out at least 1 hard drive in all of my early game runs if possible, just so I know I'll have a backpack for my next run if I die later. Another easy trade for an MBSS is 2 dog tags at Ragman level 1. These dog tags only need to be level 1, so this is a good way to make some use out of the lowest level dog tags you find, which have no other trades. Between these 2 trades, you shouldn't really ever need to run with a sling bag from Ragman, as long as you keep your eyes out for these barter items. Next up, from Ragman level 1 you can get the PACA armor vest in exchange for 3 scav face masks, which like the brown handled knives drop on pretty much every scav you kill out there in Tarkov. The PACA is not the best armor by a long shot, but it can save you from crappy scav pistols and from getting one-tapped by a shotgun, which is much better than no armor at all. This vest gets outclassed rather quickly, but for such a cheap trade, it's better than being stuck with no armor, and you can equip these scav masks after a kill to be able to loot at least 1 per raid without taking up any inventory space. Next up from Ragman level 1, you've got the 6B47 helmet in exchange for 2 bottles of bleach. This trade has become less popular now that you can buy the steel helmet at level 1, but it's still a good way to grab a cheap but effective helmet. These bottles of bleach can be found pretty easily in duffel bags and utility shelves, plus anywhere that industrial loot can spawn in big amounts like interchange and reserve. Once you get 2 of these, you can trade them to Ragman level 1 for the 6B47 helmet. This helmet is popular throughout the game since it has a good ricochet chance, protects the ears, and can mount night vision as well. Whether you're trading for this at level 1 or level 20, it's still pretty effective, and it's good to know about so you can fill up empty slots in your backpack with some bleach if you find it, and then grab a decent helmet for your next raid. The last gear trade I want to cover is the 6B5 armored rig at Ragman level 1, which trades for 3 bars of soap and 4 rolls of toilet paper. This trade is a bit harder than the others, but both of these items have become easier to find lately, making it fairly doable if you pay attention and grab them when you can. The rig is class 4 armor, which is very effective in the early game, and it already has pouches for mags since it's an armored rig. It's not going to make you invincible by any means, but when most other players have PACA vests or class 3 UN armor, this class 4 armor is pretty effective and can save your life. For the last trades in this video, I want to talk about some cases that you can acquire fairly easily that will be helpful organizing your stash and increasing the size of your container. First up, from mechanic level 1, you can get an ammo case in exchange for 5 blue gunpowder and 1 green gunpowder. Both of these items are fairly easy to find in toolboxes, hidden stashes, and weapon crates. The green gunpowder is harder to find, but it's still a relatively common drop. Plus, you can craft blue gunpowder from 5.45 PS rounds at the workbench, meaning you really only need to find the green gunpowder. The ammo case is very handy for saving space in your stash since it holds tons of ammo, but it's also a good item to simply sell back to the traders for a decent profit if you find yourself with a lot of extra gunpowder. Because this is the first wipe in a long while where the majority of players don't get a key tool at the start from the Christmas gift, the price of key tools and documents cases have skyrocketed, since all players need to acquire one if they want to store keys. Because of this, I just wanted to point out the trade for a docs case at Therapist level 2. You can trade 1 cat statue, 1 lion statue, and 5 horse statues for a docs case, which lets you store keys, coins, and some things like intelligence folders in your secure container. These items can be tough to acquire, but if you loot lots of scavs, safes, and duffel bags, you can put together the trade for the docs case by the time you hit Therapist level 2. Even if you buy the barter items on the market, it will likely be much cheaper than purchasing a docs case on the flea market until the price falls long after everyone has already acquired theirs. This trade requires some effort, but you will definitely find it extremely useful, especially if you're focusing on getting keys and looting key rooms. Well, that about covers it for the barter trades that I wanted to talk about at the level 1 traders. It's easy to overlook many of these trades, but once you start using them, I think you'll quickly find many of these items are quite useful, and they also give a purpose to some otherwise useless barter items. I'll be streaming more Escape from Tarkov on Twitch, and it'd be great to have you drop by the stream, so I'll link that in the description. I've also got links to my Twitter and Discord server, and a link to my Patreon page for anyone interested in supporting the channel so I can commit more time to making content. Thanks for checking out the video. As always, feel free to leave any comments, corrections, or suggestions down below, and until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City. Oh, of course he doesn't have the Rebel. That'd be too much. Dude, get tapped though, Sturman.